Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending this evening's webinar. My name's Talia Newton. I'm the Climate Emergency Project Officer at Shire Council, and I'll be your MC for tonight's webinar. I start tonight by acknowledging the Bunurong and Gunaikurnai peoples as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters that I'm on, and I'm sure many of you live and work on too. I pay respects to their elders past and present, and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be joining us tonight. If you're joining us from elsewhere in Victoria, feel free to introduce yourself and acknowledge the country you're joining us from in the chat. Tonight's webinar, Summer Comfort for Renters, is part of a series of webinars that Bass Coast and South Gippsland Shire Councils have partnered with Renew on across 2024. Renew have been working in the sustainability space for over 40 years as an independent not-for-profit body with a mission to inspire, enable and advocate for people to live sustainably in their homes and communities. This webinar, as well as all previous webinars, will be recorded and made available on the CAP, the Community Action Portal, for future viewing. The first 8 webinars in the series covering topics such as solar, home batteries, all electric homes, electric vehicles, winter comfort and sustainable building and renovating. They are all available to watch online if you missed those live events or would like a recap, and we'll pop the link to those in the chat. The 2024 Sustainable Living Series is designed to equip you with the information and knowledge to make your homes more comfortable, energy efficient, cheaper to run and more environmentally friendly to live in. Now, without further delay, I'd like to welcome Andrew Redaway as our expert presenter for tonight. Andrew is an energy analyst who's been involved with Renew for 10 years, helping households with independent energy advice. He's also worked for the Australian Energy Market Operator, the Australian Energy Foundation and NHAR. He's trained in solar installation and is a certified passive house designer. Welcome, Andrew, and over to you.
Thanks a lot, Talia. Yeah, great to be back. So we're looking at improved comfort for renters and focusing specifically on summer because, in case you hadn't realised, we're already in summer by a few days. So let's get into it. Energy usage in the home is the first topic, and then we'll be going on to thermal performance, and then rental quality standards, because there's been a bit changing there. And then there's what you can do. So how can you, as a renter, improve the thermal performance of your home, and talking about appliances and how you use them. And then a special category then called other stuff. All right, so if we're talking about energy usage in the home, the average sort of around Melbourne, I know Bass Coast is not Melbourne, but probably wouldn't be too far different, is around 45% of the energy goes in heating and cooling. Well, actually, majority is heating. With the stats we've got here, they're saying 45% heating, 5% cooling, 29% hot water, 13% appliances, and then the rest is small stuff. So that's a broad average, and there's actually massive variation between different households, because if you think about just the heating and cooling, like some people only turn on a heater or a air conditioner when they really need to, and they are only doing it for a single room, just for a short amount of time. Other people have it going, 24/7, and they're keeping the temperature, to 20 degrees all year round or something. So that's one level of variation already. And then, of course, there's the thermal performance of the homes. There's, when we talk about appliances, like some people have really extensive IT setups. They might be mining cryptocurrency or whatever, right? Other people have pools, which can add on a lot. So some people cook like all the time, they're baking and stuff, and other people hardly ever cook. So when you see these averages about homes, just be aware that really the variation is so enormous that, yeah, it can be all over the place. Lighting is down there as only like 1%, but actually it can be more than that. If you happen to have a home with ceilings full of downlights, and if they're the old style halogen lights which get hot, then yeah, over a lot of downlights that can really add up. So yeah, there's a bunch of variation there. The best comparison application that we're aware of is the Victorian government one, which is Victorian Energy Compare. So if you just do an internet search for that, you'll find it easily. A lot of there are some commercial comparison sites which are okay, but a lot of them, they're selective in which retailers and which plans they actually show you, because they're biasing it towards the ones that pay them for the service. So yeah, I normally recommend the Victorian Energy Compare. So you can basically put in information about your home, how much energy you're using, for example, and it can give you a prioritized list of plans for electricity and gas. Right, so this is a sort of standard electricity bill, and we've highlighted a few sections. So the first one is the account summary, and so it's, you know, basic stuff, how much your retailer is asking you to pay. So the retailer is a company who you have the contract with, who does the billing. So that might be the AGL, Energy Australia, Origin, and there's millions of others these days. Now, the next section is what tariff you're on. So just like with internet plans, like you can have plans with like different features, different download limits, all that kind of stuff. There's a whole bunch of different types of electricity plans these days as well. So with this one, just an example. So it's saying you're on a FlexiSaver time of use tariff, and you've got a pay on time discount. Okay, that's good to know. And it says an energy concession has been applied on the bill. So if you suspect that you might be eligible for a concession, then definitely chase that up on the retailer website or app, or phone them up. And it's worth trying to get every sort of discount that you can. Retailer contact details, it's fairly simple. And then number 5 is about the distributor. So you have a choice over who your retailer is, but you don't have a choice, unfortunately, in who your distributor is, because that's determined by where you're located. So around Bass Coast, that would be AusNet, I believe. So they're the company that would own the poles and wires. So if you have an issue with a blackout or something, trees falling down on the power line, they're the people that you call. And actually, a lot of the cost in your electricity bill is from those guys to maintain the poles and wires and pay the interest bills on the loans that they've got to buy that capital and all that stuff, right? So AusNet is sending a bill to your retailer, and then they're the retailer is passing on that cost to you. And a lot of people think that if you've got a daily supply charge, like $1 per day, then that component covers all of the distributor costs, the poles and wires costs. Well, actually, it doesn't. A component of your energy cost as well will also be going to pay the distributor. So yeah, the distributor would normally be a bigger component than what the retailer is. And then, yeah, usage comparison and history. So there's some useful information in here. So for example, here it's saying this example household is importing from the grid about 13.7 kilowatt hours of energy per day. So a kilowatt hour is just a unit of energy. To give you an idea, if you ran a microwave oven for an hour, that would be using about 1 kilowatt hour of energy. I don't know too many dishes that you would actually want to microwave for an hour, but yeah, alternatively, if you ran a hairdryer for maybe 15, 20 minutes, that might be a kilowatt hour as well. So 13.7 would be reasonably typical for a Victorian household, but I've seen examples down as low as about 5 kilowatt hours a day, and on the high end, you have this long tail of households, 60, 80 kilowatt hours. It's amazing how high it can go for some households. So yeah, this list here is an example of the sorts of information you get on the different energy plans that are available, and you can sort them by price. You can specify only the ones that have features that you want, all that kind of stuff. Okay, thermal performance. So that's the next section. And again, we have a sample house, sample home, which is just a rough sort of conceptual average, which is going to vary a lot from home to home. But basically, it's showing heat flows. And the example here is for winter, but you can basically reverse it for summer. So the way that heat works is heat is going to flow from something hot to something cold. So in summer, if it's hot outside, like, 35, 40 degrees or whatever, and it's cool inside, say 25 degrees, you've got that temperature difference, and the heat is always trying to go from the hot to the cold. So that outside heat is trying to soak into your house. And so you can reverse the direction of these arrows for summer. So you've got quite a lot of the heat in summer getting into your home will be coming through the ceiling, typically. And then you've got a fair bit coming in through the walls. Windows are a particular weak point in the thermal performance of your envelope of your building, and we'll come back to those. The floor, it depends on what type of floor. In this example, it's a timber floor. So yeah, you could have heat soaking in through the floor as well, especially if it's like an old timber floor with lots of cracks in between the floorboards. Okay, we do have a summer one. Okay, so you've just exercised your brains by reversing the arrows, so well done. Okay, what this picture is showing is with a thermal camera. So instead of picking up the visible light of a normal camera, it's picking up the heat that's coming off the building. So green indicates a cool surface, a cold surface, and red and purple show a hot surface. So this is a winter example. So it's you've got heat inside the home because they've had the heating on, and you can see where the heat is actually leaking out, and so a lot of it's leaking out the windows and also around some of those areas where the insulation isn't quite so good, like just at the top of the walls where the eaves are and that kind of stuff. Okay, so how good are different homes? Well, there are, if you build a new home in Victoria, then and other states as well, that home's going to be assigned a star rating. So similar to if you buy a washing machine or a fridge, you've probably seen in the big appliance stores that they'll have a sticker on it with an energy rating and like a star rating, like maybe 5 stars or something. So the star rating in homes it was introduced in about 2005, I think, and the standard until a few years ago, it was 6 stars. So if a new home was going to be built, it had to be designed to the level of 6 stars. It was then increased. So now if you're building a new home, then it has to be designed to 7 stars. So that relates to the layout of the home and the insulation in the walls, ceiling, how good the windows are, all that kind of stuff. So it's the building itself, like how well it performs thermally. So if we have a look at the chart, so a larger bar means it's going to require more energy to keep the home warm in winter and cool in summer, assuming a sort of typical pattern of heating and cooling, and how hard you're working your heaters and coolers. So lower bars are better. So if you've got an old home, it could be 3-star. It could be even worse. It could be like 1 star, and that's going to be a lot higher. You're going to need a lot more energy to condition it to the same level of comfort. So newer homes tend to be designed better. So a 6-star or a 7-star, you're looking at a much lower level of energy. So it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to be better for the environment as well. Now, you've probably noticed I've been saying designed to that level of performance. Unfortunately, the regulations, they don't require any testing of the home after it's built. So it may have been designed to have all this nice insulation and windows and everything done really well, but it's possible that when the builders came through and their subcontracted tradies, that they might have cut some corners, they might not have done it quite right. Like, for example, putting the insulation in the ceiling, it can be a difficult, unpleasant job, especially if it's a hot day. Maybe they rushed it, maybe they didn't get the insulation right out to the corners, that sort of thing. So, it's likely that that homes that are built, they don't actually perform quite as good as the star rating would suggest. Now, the passive house one down the bottom is a totally different standard. Came out of Europe. It's not mandatory at all. There's only a small number of those homes around, so it's not that relevant, but just interesting as a comparison. And that's a more rigorous standard, and they have testing as well. When a home's built, so to be certified as a passive house standard home, then it actually gets tested for air leakage and stuff. So that's a comparison that it is possible to have really comfortable, really low energy, cheap to run homes. Okay, rental standards. So there's been some stuff happening, surprisingly. So if we go back years and years ago, decades ago, it was really sort of law of the jungle for renters, tenants. Buyer beware, really. It was legal for rental providers / landlords to provide housing that was pretty poor with no real quality standards. But and why is this important? Well, renters and rental properties risk falling behind homeowners, unfortunately. I'm sure it's no surprise. It's been in the media a lot that there are a lot of issues out there in the home rental system, and energy is just one aspect of that. But in energy, one of the things that's going on is that it's now, in general, you're better off to not use gas. So there's a move that's been happening, and it's going to pick up speed to move away from gas appliances towards efficient electric appliances. So that's one thing. There's rebate schemes for things like solar panels and hot water systems and things, but they haven't been taken advantage of as much rental properties as for owner-occupied properties. Why? Well, I'm speculating, but I'm guessing that rental providers may not be as focused on those issues. So, yeah, could be. Okay, so what are some of the changes in the rental standards? So 2021, new standards came in. Now, this is not going to automatically change anything for you if you're just continuing on an existing lease. It'll be if you move to a new lease, or if it switches over from one type of lease to another, then that's when these new rules might come into effect for you. Okay, so now you have to have decent shower heads from a water point of view, how much water they use, which also affects the energy, because unless you're having cold showers, then the more water you use, then the more energy that you're also using in your water heater outside to heat up that water. So surprisingly, it was still legal, like a couple of years ago, to rent out a property that had an ancient switchboard with fuses instead of circuit breakers. No major drafts. That's a good thing. The rental provider has to provide window coverings. They have to provide a fixed heater in the main living area. So fixed heater means not just a little one that you can plug into a power point, an actual installed heating appliance, and must be 2-star efficiency. Well, that's not amazing, but at least they're saying it can't be a 1-star, and a bunch of other things that aren't so related to energy. So this is good. We are seeing some progress, and it's good to know that from an energy point of view, rental properties are as they turn over to new leases, new tenants, then that they are going to be forced to at least come up to a minimum standard. So who makes sure that it actually happens? Well, the property managers should be advising the owners to upgrade. I'm not sure if there's actually an incentive for the property managers to not forget to do that. But as a renter or a tenant, then you can you have the right to raise that with the property manager or direct with the owner if there is no real estate agent playing that role. And if the property owner refuses to meet their obligations, for example, to provide at least a 2-star rated fixed heating appliance in the main living room, then you can take them to the rental tribunal. So that's good. So you have rights and you can stand up for them. And when I'm talking about a heating appliance, then generally it would make sense for rental providers, if they're putting in a fixed heating appliance, to put in a split system air conditioner, and because that's relatively cheap to put in, relatively simple. There's lots of installers out there who can do it. They're effective appliances for heating. Actually, they're the most cost-effective way to heat in winter. And relevant to the topic for this evening, they obviously can provide cooling in summer as well. This is very new. So there's been a new bill announced. It hasn't actually been passed through the Parliament yet. But if this goes through, then there's going to be extra requirements. So there's a couple here about rent increases in rental amounts and things, but the one that's mostly related to energy, I guess, is that if a landlord, a rental provider, property owner, if they're advertising a property for rent, then they actually have to bring that property up to the latest standards. So insulation, fixed heater, etc. When it's advertised. So they can't say, oh yeah, you come through for an inspection. Oh yeah, here you go. Oh yes, it's going to be brought up to standard. No, like if they're doing inspections and advertisements, then it'll have to already be up to standards, so you know what you're actually going to be living in when you're going through that process, which is good. All right, so if you're a renter, then your home it's not owned by you. It's an asset of somebody else. So it makes sense that you can't just go crazy and do whatever. So with the current rules, what you can do, I'll just pick out the ones that relate to energy. You can install LED light bulbs. So that's great. You can't go ahead and replace the entire chandelier or light fitting, but just the bulbs. Yeah, you can replace those, and that would be worth doing. If the light has an old style light which gets hot, so like if you can put your hand near it and it's really uncomfortably hot, like a few centimeters away from the light, then that's a easy indication that it's using heaps of energy. So you'd be better off to replace it with the LED. You can just buy the bulbs from hardware stores anywhere. You can take the old bulb and make sure it's the compatible one. Buy it, come and install it, and then I guess when you're leaving the tenancy, if you wanted to, you could take that LED light that you've bought with you and put the old inefficient one in if you wanted to retain that light bulb to use maybe the next place. You can install shower heads which have a lower water flow. Yeah, just by the way, the low flow shower heads, they tend to have features which make it feel like it's not just like a trickle of water landing on your head. They tend to have lower flow but sort of higher velocity. So usually it's still a good satisfying shower, even though it's not using as much water and as much energy. So yeah, you can do that, but you have to store the original one. Same with curtains. You could install curtains of your own choice, but you have to retain the original ones. You can also put in window film. So what this is, you've probably heard of like tinting, right? So it's like a plastic layer that gets stuck on usually the internal side of the windows, and that can have energy saving benefits. So there's some films that if you've got a west facing window that gets direct sun on it on a summer afternoon and evening, then there are films which will help to reduce how much hot sunlight comes through that window in the evening, and there are films which can help like all through winter and summer to just reduce when it's hot, when the air is hotter on one side than the other, then it stops that heat soaking through the window as much. So yeah, so those are some of the clear things that you can do as a renter without even asking permission from the agent or the landlord. Okay, now these are things that you can install, but you have to get permission from the agent, like the real estate agent. However, the owner can't refuse unless they've got some good reason. So the examples here is draft proofing. Sorry, tongue twister. Draft proofing. So gap sealing. If you've got, I think we'll have a slide on this a bit later on, but there's lots of simple do-it-yourself type products. So like little foam tubes that you can push into gaps if you've got gaps around your windows, for example, or door frames, or in between floorboards, all that kind of thing. That's pretty easy. You're just squeezing something in there to block it up so the air doesn't come through. Caulking, gap filling. So that's more like a sort of like a glue. It's like a sticky liquid that you squeeze out of a tube, and then it goes firm. So yeah, that type of draft proofing, yeah, you can do. Now, one thing it does mention here is open fluid gas heating. Now that's worth just explaining. Gas heaters, there are different types. So there's central heating, which is pretty common in Victoria. So that's where you have usually a big metal unit like out down the side of the house that has the gas firing up, and a big fan that blows air into these ducts under the floor, and then they branch out, and you have these grills in the floor, like normally like near the windows in the bedrooms and living rooms, that type of thing, and the warm air comes out of those ducts. So that's a gas central heating. That's not what we're talking about here. There's gas wall heaters, which is, say, in the living room, you might have an appliance up against the wall, fairly slim sort of appliance. It's a heater, and that's burning gas and creating heat. So there's two types. One type has a chimney, which is a flue, FLUE, not FLU, like influenza. A flue is a chimney, like it's a small pipe which acts as a chimney. So that when the gas is burned, then the products of that combustion are other gases. So instead of staying in the room, they go out the chimney and safely out of the house. Now the other type looks similar. It's a wall unit. It burns gas, but it doesn't have that chimney. It doesn't have that flue. So when you're burning the gas, then the burnt gases stay inside the home. You can't see them or smell them, but they can be dangerous if they build up too much, right? They can affect your health. So if you have one of those appliances, there's not too many around anymore, but if you have a indoor gas heater, like a wall heater, then you should really check, does it have the flue, does it have the chimney or not? If it has no chimney, then you have to be a little careful about sealing up all the gaps, because then it's possible that you'll get nasty gases building up inside the home when the heater's running. Personally, if I had a gas heater without a flue, without a proper chimney, I would be bugging the owner to fix it. If you do internet searches, you'll easily find lots of articles about the problems they can cause and how bad they are. So, yeah. And the other thing here is sort of a catch-all kind of phrase there, saying other things that are needed to give access to make sure the renter is not too hot or cold, or to reduce energy and water bills. So that's pretty good. That's basically saying you can ask permission for anything which is going to improve your comfort for heat and cold, and reduce your energy bills, and you're still going to have to pay to install it if you want. That's what we're talking about here. What can renters install? But if you want to pay to install something, then you can ask the owner for permission, and they're not allowed to say no unless they've got some good reason. And then new standards coming up in 1.5 years or something. So just some basic improvements there, really. So cooling, some better so some minimum requirements on the efficiency of heaters and coolers. So that'll be great. and they're going to, well, if these changes actually do manage to happen, then yeah, they're saying they're also going to require to put insulation in the ceiling. So what that R5 means, it's just basically how thick the insulation is, how good the insulation is, and R5 is a good reasonable amount. It would, on a normal insulation bat, it would be like that thick sort of thing, maybe 250 millimeters. So yeah, I mean that should be a no-brainer for so many reasons. Homes without ceiling insulation should not exist in 2024. All right, let's move on. Oh, there's more. Okay, so if these new changes come in, there's actually going to be better shower heads. They're proposing that if you have a gas hot water system, then when that gets too old and it needs to be replaced with a new one, then the new one will have to be electric, not gas. So that's pretty good. Saying the landlord's going to have to install some draft proofing. That's good. All right, let's move on. So really the overall message is that things are improving in terms of the standards for renters, like with energy performance. All right, so apart from standards, what can you actually do as a renter? We've talked about a few things already. Apart from that, one thing you can do is to get an assessment of how efficient your home actually is, and get some advice on the priorities for where you should focus your attention. Like, there's a range of things you can do. Well, which is going to give you the most bang for your buck? Which will give you the best benefit for the amount of cost and effort to do it. So if you get one of these assessments, it's a residential efficiency scorecard, and thank you, Andy. Great to have the link in there. So an assessor will come and visit the home, and that they can tell you on the spot like what they think is the most important, and then they'll email you a detailed report later on. So I won't spend too much time on this one. So you can get an assessment done if you pay for it, and it's also discounted at the moment by the Victorian government. Do-it-yourself ceiling insulation. So the picture there is a bit scary. So what that is, so that's in the roof space. So you've got the roof up the top. It looks like probably a ColourBond roof, I think, that corrugated profile, and you got the ceiling. So it's that space in between the roof and the ceiling. And so yeah, ceiling insulation is a really good thing, really important. And it looks like there was some there or something. So yeah, you do want to have ceiling insulation, but a couple of things is you're not permitted to go up in the roof and just start putting down insulation yourself. That has to be done through the landlord or the property manager. Now, apart from not being allowed to do it as a tenant, a renter, the other thing is safety warning, basically. There's a couple of things. What's probably happened here is that there may have been, most roof spaces have some electrical cables there, some electrical wires going from the switchboard to a room down the back of the house or something. So you have these electrical cables, and they might have got damaged by mice or rats or something. So that can be a danger if you got damaged electrical cables up in the roof space. Apart from that, you've got the danger of, like, the normal plasterboard on a ceiling is not strong enough to stand on. So if you step in the wrong place, you can fall through the ceiling into the room below. And the other danger is, the other main danger is it can get super hot in summer. So that can actually be, a major risk, that level of heat. All right. So you can't really do that yourself as a tenant slash renter. What can you do? Curtains. So yeah, as we just saw in the new recent rule change, you can put your own curtains in if you store the old ones. Okay, so what sort of curtains might you want? Well, if you want to reduce the amount of heat that's coming in through your windows in summer, or the amount of heat that you're losing out through your windows in winter, then thick curtains are a good idea. And they can be from all sorts of places. Don't have to cost too much if you can find secondhand ones. Especially if you've got some sewing skills that you can maybe modify existing curtains. And the example here, it's got thick fabric, so that's good. But what's not so good about this example is it's not really sealing it all up. You've got these gaps up the top and gaps on the side, and you may have gaps on the bottom as well. So ideally with curtains, you want it to provide a sort of a continuous blanket, like from the walls to the walls, like all around the window, to really keep it snug. Also with the windows, like we talked about, there can be gaps around the windows. Like even if you can't like see a big gap, like if it's a windy day, like if you hold a little piece of thread or something, you'll see that air is blowing in and it's moving your piece of thread around. So air does come in, even small gaps. So you can seal those with the sorts of products I mentioned previously. All right, so this is about a pelmet, which is what that is. It's just something that goes on top of the curtain, up against the wall, so it's sealing off that gap. And the reason it's important is because the example here is for winter. So I don't think we have an actual summer example, but it's the same principle. It's so you've got air that sits in between the window and the curtain, and that air is exposed to the window, which is going to have so it's going to be cold in winter, right? So the air there will get cooled down. It'll drop down. Warm air rises like hot air balloons and things. Cold air drops, and then new warm air comes in and gets cooled, and you have this circulation, which is cooling the air in your room, which is not what you want in winter. And it's the opposite thing in summer. So you've got air next to the window. It gets hot because it's next to the glass, which is not stopping the heat coming in very much. Hot air rises, cool air goes in, and you get the circulation that's heating up the air in your room in summer. So how do you stop that? Well, a pelmet on the top of the curtain is the way to do it. So it's going to stop the air from circulating around. And there's all different ways you can do it. Lots of DIY sort of options, non-permanent options that you can just get something. And if you can find a way to just rest it there, then that'll be good enough. Okay, drapes are just another word for curtains. So okay. So this is an example. Double glazing is another is another way to have a window that's better at resisting that heat flow through the window. So what double glazing means is instead of just having a normal window which just has a single pane of glass, it's got two panes of glass side by side with an air gap in between. And that air gap is it provides some insulation benefit. It's still not as good as if you've got a wall with like insulation inside it, like an insulation bat. That's going to be a lot better, but double glazing is a lot better than just a single sheet of glass. So double glazing is an option, but as a renter, you're not going to have the ability to upgrade your windows from single glaze to double glaze. Another option for keeping the heat in winter and keeping the heat out in summer is heavy drapes, heavy curtains. And basically, what this study found is that the heavy curtains are almost as good as double glazing at doing that. So it's good, and that's something that you can do as a renter. Of course, the downside with curtains is, well, the curtains are closed, you don't have your view, you don't have your natural light. So depending on which room it is, that might be not what you want. So yeah, swings and roundabouts. Now this is a good one. So I said you're not going to be able to replace the old windows with new ones. That's for the owner to do. But what you can do is put bubble wrap on the windows. It sounds a bit silly, but yeah, it actually works pretty well. Because bubble wrap has those air gaps in it, those air pockets. So it's doing a very similar thing to what double glazing would do. It still lets some light come in. It doesn't look particularly wonderful, but yeah, each to their own. And yeah, even if you don't like that look for your living room, it might be okay for a bedroom or a storeroom or whatever. So yeah, that can be a pretty good option. Now, this one, I actually don't like this slide very much, but I'll talk about it anyway. So what this is talking about is specific to summer, so good for this season that we're in now. So let's say you have a window that's 1 meter by 1 meter. So you've got 1 square meter of window glazing, and it's on the west side, and you get that full afternoon sun coming in, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. in the evening, and you got the hot sun coming in. So 1 square meter, the amount of heat that you're getting in through that window, like a full sunlight like that, it's equivalent to having a little heater going. So yeah, obviously you don't want to have a heater going in your room in summer, and you also don't want that hot sun coming in through the glass. So what can you do about it? Well, there's a range of things. And right, if you can fully shade the window, then that almost totally solves the problem. That's not rocket science, is it? If you can hang something or put something in outside the window that blocks the sun, then that's great. Solar film, so that's a plastic stuff that gets stuck on the window. That can be effective as well. Curtains are effective as well. Double glazing, yeah, not so effective at this specific thing. That's not really what double glazing is intended for. It's double glazing is more about operating. It's going to keep working for you day after day, all through winter, all through those hot summer nights. It's just going to reduce the amount of heat that's flowing through your window, just soaking through from the temperature difference. What this slide is about is when you've got direct sun going through the window, and yeah, double glazing doesn't help too much with that. Okay, so yeah, put something in front of the windows if you are getting that hot summer sun coming in the window. Lots of options. You can clip shade cloth on your gutters. That's a tried and tested, simple, cheap way to do it. Lots of other options. Let's just move on, I think. Yep, there's the clipping the shade cloth on the gutters. Traditional blinds work great, and there's fancier options too, as you can see. Okay, draft ceiling. I think we've pretty much covered this. I might just touch on a few that maybe we haven't talked about. Yeah, some that as a renter you might be able to do that we haven't mentioned. If you have an old chimney for an old wood fire, wood burning fireplace, then if that's not being used anymore for fires, then yeah, it's good to put something up in that chimney that stops the air just going in and out, because otherwise it's a big hole for your ceiling, right? it's good to provide some warning to the next person who comes along that the chimney is blocked, or they'll start a fire and wonder why the smoke's all just going out into the room. So yeah, if there are commercial products which have like a sort of balloon thing with a string hanging down, or you can just get a offcut of insulation or something, shove it up there. But yeah, have some tape or string or something so that the next person is aware that that's what you've done. These vents high up on the wall, so up on the top left of that diagram there, so they're normally in older homes. It kind of comes back to what we mentioned previously. If you've got an unflued gas heater indoors and it's burning gas, and the gas of the burnt gases are going into the home, then it's good to have ventilation. And this was a situation that used to exist a lot in the past. People used kerosene lamps, kerosene heaters. They burn oil heaters, they have open fireplaces, coal, burning coal, all that stuff. So that's very old-fashioned now, but that's the purpose for these vents that you see high up in the wall sometimes. It's just to ensure that you have that ventilation so that if you're burning stuff in the home with no chimney, that it can escape safely. Now, most of us don't do that anymore. So if you don't, then yeah, go ahead and seal up those gaps in the wall. That's an easy fix, easy win. Okay, I'll just quickly touch on this. This is basically how quickly your house is going to warm up, like when the sun comes out and the heat starts arriving outside, and then how long it's going to take to cool down again. So if you've got, like often in summer, you have a really hot day and then a cool change comes through, the westerly winds come in, southwesterly winds. You open up your windows, which is great, and get that cool air in and try and cool down the house. Well, if your house is made out of timber like this, then it can cool down fairly quickly. If you've got lots of bricks and concrete and stuff, then it will take longer to cool down. So swings and roundabouts, just something to be aware of, I guess. Now, as a renter or a tenant, you don't have a choice about like installing a new one, really. But yeah, just so you're aware of it, evaporative cooling and air conditioning, sometimes they look the same. Like both of them can be installed as one of these big box things up on top of the roof, but they operate very differently. So if you've got an air conditioner, that's refrigerative air conditioning, then the best thing is to seal up the room that it's running in, or if it's a whole house, then yeah, seal up the house, close the doors, close the windows, and because you're cooling the air in the house, so you want to hold on to that cold air. You don't want it just blowing away. If you have an evaporative cooler, that works differently. It works by evaporating water and cooling down the air that way. But because it's putting moist air into the house, like wet air, then you have to have windows open. So evaporative cooling, yeah, it's probably not as effective as an air conditioner, especially if you have a real hot heat wave, and especially if it's humid air, if you've got high humidity. But it doesn't use that much electricity. So yeah, those are the two differences. If you've got one of these older style air conditioners, it's basically the same as a normal split system, but it's just going straight through a hole in the wall or in a window. It's an older type of appliance. It's less efficient. Now, these are very applicable to renters, portable air conditioners. So a small unit, it just has a cord with a plug that you can plug into a power point on the wall. There's two types. The one on the left is evaporative. So it's sort of like the evaporative cooler that we just talked about before. The one on the right operates more like the aircon. And this one, it's actually got like a flexible hose that you have to put out the window or out the door or something, because it has to have that connection with the outdoor air. So look, if you have a choice, then it would be better to have the one installed, like the proper aircon that you see in bedrooms or living rooms and things. But if you don't have one of those, then this can be a reasonable option. Yeah, it's not going to be quite as efficient. So for the same amount of cooling power that it gives you, cooling energy, it's going to use more electricity. But not a bad option. If you are using one of these, then I'd try and use it in a like a bedroom or something, where you're going to get that benefit fairly quickly and hold on to that air. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Okay, fans. Fans are good. So you've got your ceiling fans sometimes. The trick with those is that they normally have a little switch on the body of the fan, like that dome bit that you're seeing there. So that switches it from summer mode to winter mode, and all that does is it changes the direction. So in summer mode, it's spinning so that it's pushing the air down, so you get more of that cooling breeze. In winter, you don't want to have a cooling breeze because you're trying to stay warm. So it pushes the air up. So you don't feel the airflow so much, but it's just circulating the heat so the hot air up at the ceiling gets spread around. Look, it's the difference isn't enormous, to be honest, but yeah, it's worth doing if you're agile and steady enough to get up on a ladder, or if you can ask someone to do that. It is worth doing, to switch it twice a year. Portable fans are pretty good. Yeah, simple. And if you want a little life hack to supercharge it, then if you can hang a damp cloth in front of it, then you're going to get that evaporation effect of the water, and that will help cool things down more. You can try and cool yourself directly. So cold water bottle, that's actually pretty good. And if you can get some ice blocks out of the freezer or something, put them in a water bottle, that's a good one. Small fans, you can even get tiny little fans that run off a USB connection off your computer, that sort of thing. And yeah, just common sense as well. Like, just be aware of when it's hot inside, when it's hot outside. Just be sensible about when windows and doors are open. All right, so hot water, it's not particularly a summer issue, but yeah, energy saving is always good. I think we've covered most of this in terms of renters. Shower heads, energy saving ones are good. Low water usage shower heads. And the other one here is really, you can put this insulation, you can just buy this really cheap from a hardware store. It's really slick, so all you have to do is like snap it on. You could put some tape around it as well if you wanted to. So if you've got exposed hot water pipes, so the pipes that are going to your hot tap, the way you can tell is if you have a hot tap on for a little while and go down and feel that pipe. If it's actually hot, then that means that it's radiating that heat, and you're just losing energy for no purpose. And it's also taking you longer to get the hot water through to the tap, which is always a little annoying. So yeah, if you have that situation and you're agile enough to crawl around under your house, perhaps, then just put some insulation on those hot pipes. Easy. Other stuff. I'm thinking maybe we just pause this, answer some questions, and then maybe come back to the other stuff if we have time at the end. Maybe I'll just address this slide, because otherwise people feel like missed out.
Oh.
Okay, so yeah, lighting. So yeah, LED lighting is the most efficient. There are different options of it, and basically the main thing only other little point I'd make at the moment is if you've got downlights, then yeah, you put in LED downlights if you've got the old hot halogen ones. But yeah, if you are going to be able to get ceiling insulation put in, then it's good to put in the LED downlight, which is it's allowed to be covered up with insulation because some of them still have a bit of heat coming out, and they say you have to have a hole in the insulation. So yeah, that's my main tip there. Try not to compromise what the insulation will be if you get that installed maybe in a year or two or something.
All right, so we might answer some of the questions now. There are a couple of questions there, but if anyone else has extra ones, just pop them into the Q&A function and we will get to them. The first question that we have says, but rental standards don't include insulation in the ceiling. You'd have to be a brave tenant to challenge the owner to comply with these new standards. Who wants to lose their rental?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah, like as I said, like it's a big policy issue for the country as a whole at the moment is the housing crisis, all of those issues, and yeah, energy is just one aspect of it. So I'm not pretending to have all the answers for all of Australia's problems. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. I suppose too, you can, some of those things that maybe are optional and are not part of the standards, maybe you can ask, even if the owner isn't willing to do it. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, I guess one of the things to look for is there were a few of those changes where if the owner is going to get a new tenant in, then they're going to have to bring it up to standard anyway, because then at that process, when they're advertising it, then that's more sort of enforced, I guess. So that would give you more protection. Like if you're feeling vulnerable about losing your lease or not having your lease renewed, would be, well, yeah. If they do move you on and get someone else in, then are they going to have to do it anyway? So yeah.
I suppose maybe you can let them know that. Maybe that's a little bit cheeky.
Up to you. I'm not going to give advice on how to negotiate with landlords.
The next question that we have, Bass Coast is pretty well known for energy outages during storms and other events. I feel fortunate to have gas cooking, even though it's bottled, because at least when the power goes out, I can cook and wash from the gas that's available. Is electrification really that important?
Yeah, well, everyone has their own choice, their own priorities. I guess what I'd say is if you did go off gas and go like all electric home, and you had electric cooking, that it's not hard to. It depends how common your blackouts are and how extended the duration is, but it's pretty easy and cheap to get little gas camping stoves that use those sort of canisters. So if that's an option, you could have that as a backup. So you can have the benefits of electrification and still be able to cook and boil water and stuff in a grid outage. You could also still have a barbecue or something on bottled gas. That would give you another option. So yeah, there's a range of different options available. I probably wouldn't see that for most households as a showstopper for electrifying, but yeah, every household has their own priorities.
Yeah. All right, so we've got another one here. I don't mind a bit of a DIY handy person stuff, but I've always approached the changing over of halogens or even replacement of blown LED lights with a bit of question. Is it worth persisting because it's easier than it appears, or is it best for an electrician?
Well, definitely something that's commonly done as a DIY thing. That doesn't mean it's right for everybody to do it. You can assess your own capabilities there, I guess. I'd suggest maybe if you've got access to YouTube, then do a YouTube search on replacing light bulbs and LED lights and halogen lights, and I find myself, if I'm doing some little DIY thing, if I can actually watch a video or a couple of different videos of people doing it and actually see how they do it, and then I can get a feel for, yeah, is it doable for me or not? So yeah, that's the main tip, I think. Or alternatively, if you've got a friend or a family member or something like that who's switched on and capable and keen with all of the DIY sort of things, then you might be able to get some assistance as well.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions as well. Do you know where people can find more information on how to actually read their energy bills, or electricity bills? Sometimes it can be tricky to really understand them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the tariffs, the electricity tariffs, are more complex now than what they used to be in the old days. So previously you would have typically you'd have a daily supply charge that might be, say, $1 per day. So you pay that regardless of whether you're away on holidays and not using any electricity or not. And then you'd have a energy charge, which was just like a flat amount, say, 30 cents per kilowatt hour. So each unit of electricity that you're using, if you were awake when I described a kilowatt hour, you'll hopefully have that concept. For each kilowatt hour of electricity that you bring in from the grid, import from the grid through your meter, then you're going to pay 30 cents. So that's a relatively simple tariff. Like on your bill, it just says, okay, for the last month or the last 3 months, you used 300 kilowatt hours or 900 kilowatt hours, and we've multiplied that by 30 cents and added $1 per day, and there's your bill. Plus GST, whatever. Unfortunately, now it's a bit more complicated in most cases, or many cases. So your energy that you import from the grid may be more expensive in the evening, especially, say between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m., maybe only on weekdays. So that depends on the tariff that you choose, and how well that's described on your bill and like made clear to you exactly what's going on is sometimes debatable. And there's even a move towards a even trickier electricity tariff called a demand tariff. So if you were on one of those, what that means is you're going to have a charge there, which is saying, demand charge, whatever, maybe $30 or something for the last month or whatever. Now, how do they calculate that demand charge? It's not about how much energy you've been importing through your meter over the month. What the retailer will do is they'll go, okay, let's look back every half hour in that month and find the one which was the highest half hour in that month. So you might have had some time when you had a party going on and you had your oven going, your air conditioner, and lots of appliances and everything running at once. So they'll go, oh, okay, so that half hour you imported 20 kilowatt hours of energy in that half hour. So we're going to we're going to multiply that by a rate, and then that is going to come out to this $30 whatever charge for this month. So it's about the intensity of your energy usage that's happened over that billing period, or sometimes it's over the past year. And they might only be looking at history on weekdays from in the afternoon and evening. So it's all these details that are all wrapped into that plan, and yeah, that can be tricky. So I can't think off the top of my head of a good website or resource to step people through those. I'm guessing some of the links that have already been put up may provide some references to those, but yeah, if anyone else can come up with a good easy, okay, you can just go here, then I'd love to find out.
Yeah, thank you. That's all the questions that we have for now. I did just want to mention that the local Miley libraries have home energy kits available for anyone to borrow. So you can borrow thermal imaging cameras, which I know Andrew had a photo of the house, like the thermal image of the house. Yeah. They're great to be able to tell where drafts are. They're available to borrow. Also, home energy and water efficiency kits. They have instructions of how to use them, and you can also borrow induction cooktops too. So just something to keep in mind when you're thinking about making any of those sort of changes to the home.
Just reiterate a couple of those things. Yeah, those are really good resources. So the thermal cameras, yeah, drafts, but also even if you've got ceiling insulation, but then an electrician or a tradie has been up there and they've had to move the insulation to do their job and they haven't put it back again. That's very common. So you can take a photo of the ceiling, and if it's like cold weather or hot weather, and then you can actually see a rectangle's been shifted like this on the ceiling, just because of the way the heat's coming through. So yeah, those are really effective, those thermal cameras. And yeah, induction cooktops. So that would be like just a little portable one that you plug into a PowerPoint. I've used those a fair bit, and they're really effective. It'll just have one sort of a place for a single pot. It's not going to be a full cooktop unless you get 4 of them and plug them to different PowerPoints. Don't plug 4 of those into one power board. By the way, you'll overload you'll overload a single PowerPoint. Sorry, I'm being a bit silly now, but yeah, those portable induction cooktops are very effective and super light, portable to move around, and it's a good way to test out induction cooking. Is it good for you? Is your existing cookware compatible with an induction? You can test it out with one of those portable ones. Yeah, it's not going to be as powerful as like a full install cooktop, but yeah, very, very effective. Sorry, I'll pass back to you.
That's great, thank you. Were there any other slides that you wanted to talk to, or is that
so we've got like 5 minutes left, is it, roughly?
Yeah, yep.
All right, well, let's jump back to the other stuff then. I've still got energy.
All right.
To talk about energy. Right, okay, so this is about the stickers on new appliances. So these star rating. So the one that we've got here, it's got 6 stars on the main arch, and it's got an extra 2 up the top. So that's an 8-star appliance. So the more stars, the better. So if you were in one of the appliance stores and you're comparing one fridge against another fridge, then yeah, if it's got more stars, then it'll be better, basically. Now, if you're comparing one of these new fridges against the second-hand one that Uncle Bob has from 1993, and it still has a sticker on it, you might go, hey, that's 5-star and that's 5-star. Uncle Bob's one's going to use just as much energy as this brand spanking new one from the shop. Well, actually, no. Two factors. One is that the rating system has changed. Like it gets continually improved, like made tougher. So if a new fridge is going to meet like a 5-star standard, it's passing a tougher test, and it will use a lot less energy than Uncle Bob's old fridge from 1990. The other thing is that that fridge is old. It's probably not working as well as it was when it was new, like the machinery. And the other thing is like the fridges have seals on the doors, so yeah, it's probably leaking air. So yeah, so but just coming back to the actual energy rating, the other thing you can look at is down below the stars is this. It'll have a number. It's just put X's here because it's an example, but it'll say like per year this fridge will use 300 kilowatt hours of electricity. And that's assuming that you use a fridge like a normal person. Like if you stand there for half an hour with the door while you decide which type of cheese you're going to pull out, then it'll use more energy. So yeah, even if you're comparing a modern appliance against a really old one, then you can still look at that number and you'll get a comparison. Yeah, and the other point here is if you're running a pool, then yeah, they've got pumps to pump the water around for like the filtration, the cleaning, that kind of stuff. That can use a lot of energy. Often they're running for 5 hours a day or something, maybe more. So it is a good idea to try and get a more efficient pump. I think now they've been forced to, like people selling pool pumps have had. I think now they've been forced to put star ratings on them. Previously they didn't for some silly reason. And the other thing that can affect the energy in a pool pump is how hard that pump has to work. So if it's just pushing water through a nice big pipe and it doesn't have many bends on it, then it doesn't have to work so hard. But if it's got like a skinny pipe and it's got lots of elbows everywhere, then the pump will use more energy, basically. Standby power is still a factor. Most like little electronic gadgets with the little internal silicon chips and things, they're pretty good now actually at cutting down their standby power level to a pretty low level. I think there still are some appliances which are energy hogs, like when you turn them off, but they're not turned off at the wall. The one that comes to mind is a coffee machine. I think some coffee machines have like a heating pad that doesn't really cool down, like even unless you turn it off fully at the wall. And I think some of the old like printers and scanners and those types of devices might have been a problem as well. But so it's something to be aware of, but it's not as much of an issue as it used to be. Yes, there are some options if you're a renter to take advantage of some of the rebates out there. Now, there's different levels of rebates, or yeah, there's different sources of rebates. There's the federal one. The good thing about the federal one is it's just automatic. Everyone gets it for a rooftop solar system. It's already built into the quotes. You don't have to worry about it. Now, this is about a Victorian government one. So this allows the owner to get a discount of another discount of $1,400, and they can get some interest-free loan money. So that's pretty good. And there's an option in there for the tenant to contribute some money to the cost of the loan repayments. So yeah, if you got a landlord or a property manager that's sort of halfway reasonable, then you could talk to them about putting solar on. And yeah, the sweetener there is, hey, there's this government rebate at the moment. It probably won't last forever. So if you do it now, then you'll it'll be fairly cheap to get the solar installed. I'm going to contribute as a tenant. I'll be putting in some money as well. And down the track, if you ever decide to sell the property, then it's going to be more. It's going to be a higher value property having solar on it. So that's actually a pretty good incentive, just as long as the owner is sort of amenable to some sensible sort of upgrades, I guess. All right, 7:30, and maybe that's enough.
Thanks so much, everyone, for your time tonight. Hopefully it's been informative and helped answer some of your questions about keeping cool and comfortable in summer. Thanks very much to Andrew, our expert presenter tonight, for lending his expertise and experience. And also thanks to Andy from Renew for the behind the scenes support. This is the last webinar that we have for 2024, but please stay tuned for more to come in 2025. And just a reminder, this webinar has been recorded. It'll be posted within the next few weeks on the CAP, the Community Action Portal. There'll be a link to that in the chat, and you'll also find all of our other webinar recordings there too. That's everything for tonight. Thanks again for coming along, and hope to see you all again soon.
Thanks, Talia. See you later. Bye.
Bye.